Welcome back to the social work race. Got crumbs all over my chest. You know how it is. Social worker in a car doing visits today. So this was an issue. My dad's parents were invited over here, and that's the introduction of the Windrush generation. We were a part of the Commonwealth, and therefore we ought to have been citizens of this country, right? Sorry. And so when we get here, obviously we face oppression until this very day. Far, far less so in 2023, but it still happens. Where I am now, I'm in the countryside, and I don't look over my shoulder, but there are things that happen. Nothing major. Now and again, very rarely do I receive any kind of direct racism. It's very rare, but it does happen. And I handle it very differently. My dad had a completely different experience in his early days, right? And his parents, I mean, they were treated like dogs, right? We know that. That's easy. And some of the people that treated them like dogs are still alive, and they've had kids and they are very much alive. And then there's me. That's my generation. And then I have children who haven't really experienced it. Interestingly though, they brought that generation of West Indians over. Please come over, we need you for the economy, plus your citizens. And they were sold a dream of making money and making a good life for their children. Did it happen? Yes and no. Depends how you look at it. However, I haven't even introduced the topic yet, and it's really to say, and I've done this before on a previous podcast, probably about 6 months ago. This term integration is a big term because it means different things to different people. For those who are imposing it, they are basically saying, I want you to look like me and act like me so that I'm comfortable. So I don't even like the word integration because this is a free country. This is not Sweden. This is not Norway. This is not Poland. This is Great Britain. It's a completely different setup based on different things. And yes, the Commonwealth, they should have the right to just be. But although what was written on paper for us was there, the people who were not necessarily educated didn't get that. And that's where racism has still been an issue, because a lot of people don't understand how the Commonwealth was set up, its origins, its what the Union Jack. They don't understand what it means. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about the fact that, yeah, Windrush Day, but actually there's a massive scandal behind it. And that scandal is really that we come here, we have people paying taxes, living here for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. My dad's generation, and people who have come here were told that they are British citizens, and to find that they've burnt their or thrown their paperwork in the bin on a mass scale. Why would you do that? Sorry about the noise. You know, throwing their paperwork away on a mass scale doesn't make sense. And then say to them and their children, think about this, we don't think you should be here. I'm just starting. We don't think you should be here. We're looking at sending you back home. And some people were. This is a joke. I live here. As far as I'm concerned, I'm a British citizen. I pay taxes. I'm a law-abiding person. But because my parents, there is some technicality in the paperwork, and you're like, well, we don't have proof of who you are. You've got to go back. Like, how does that make you feel? Imagine that feeling where you've lived somewhere for 50 years. This is all you know. And they're saying you don't belong here. No matter what you hear, that is an indelible mark on your mind to say, well, this is who I am. However, it gets deep, because I'm listening to the news. I listened to Rishi Sunak talk about how much they're going to invest in Ukraine. Listen, I'm talking to you as a social worker. The beautiful people, the lovely country, the potential, we've got loans that have been agreed that will be given to you later on in the billions. We've rallied all these countries together to get through this tiny little country that's stuck on the end of Russia, to invest in you. Not only that, and I have personal experience as a social worker of seeing what happens when it comes to bringing people over. And believe me, I don't care who you are, because it's not the Ukrainians I'm talking about here. I'm talking about England and the minorities in England. So don't get me twisted, yeah? They went out of their way and brought people here on a rushed visa type. It's got, I've seen the paperwork on the government website. It was so rushed, it had spelling mistakes that not only I saw, but the parents saw. This is a joke. And they brought them over here and said, settle down, live here. Not only that, but local authorities that are failing. And the government that has no money has found money to put in their pockets for them to live here. Set up in school. They're here as British citizens with the exact same rights almost. Now, my question to you is this, because you heard me shouting. I don't often get passionate. I'm listening to the Prime Minister, even the previous two Prime Ministers. We've had three in the last probably year. It's interesting. I remember when people were being shouted at for not taking a vaccine. I remember when people were being heckled and being told they shouldn't be allowed to walk on the streets because they don't want to take the vaccine. They're making everyone unsafe. And the figures showed that minorities didn't want to do it. And I'm telling you why. It's because they don't trust. That's it. These little messages and these grand messages paint a picture. And so, yes, I've lived here, but I have to ask questions. Why is it that there is so much potential and beauty in the Ukrainian people, but the people who have been here, who have built this country, don't feel this way? And that's one of the challenges we have as social services, that minorities from all walks of minority, they don't trust the system. So when I turn up to someone's door, I'm lucky because they're like, oh, he's a black guy. Maybe. I'm hearing this, you know, I'm not making this up. They're looking at me a bit different and thinking, well, maybe there's hope. And I have to put a lot of work in to sell hope of, and we're not trying to just rip kids out of your lives. We're trying to work with you. Don't just run from the system. It's system's here, but work with me. The work I have to put in to earn that trust back. Yeah. So that's the country that I live in. And I'm picking up the pieces. I'm not complaining. It's not like that. I'm literally picking up the pieces on how to get people to trust. I work with minorities and I work with the what do you call it? The, what's the word I'm looking for? I work with the natives of the majority. Let's call it that. And there's also class, which is an issue. But, you know, this is it. The passion in my voice is such because people have been taken out of this country, having lived here all their lives. They don't know anything about Jamaica. They've never been there. But, you know, this is England. Yeah. We asked people to go to Ukraine and fight for Ukraine. People went, you know, but no one's doing that for Jamaicans. I don't see the government going out of their way for Jamaicans. We are not a part of Europe anymore. What is the... Now, look, there's a whole story behind it. That's not the issue. The issue here is, what do you think is in the minds of people who we work with? If you are a social worker, what is in the mind of the minority that you're working with? If you think they're apprehensive, think about it. There's reasons for that. And sadly, it's your job to work through that. There's a major disparity between a Jamaican or African, you know, Nigerian, Ghanaian, Kenyan woman and a white woman, social worker, coming to work with them. There's a whole lot of stuff in between. And it might be uncomfortable for me to say, but it's the truth. And it's sadly our job to work through that. We don't, like I mentioned, Norway and Switzerland. These countries, they're all, the people, there's hardly any minorities there. So there isn't anything in between you and the social worker apart from a little bit of fear. But in the UK, there's a whole lot. And unless you, whether you are like myself, a minority or majority, if you're not willing to address this, I don't trust you. That's my encouragement. Think about what I'm saying. Hopefully this works for you. Take care.